All right, welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're cracking open the strategic playbook for pharmaceutical patents in Saudi Arabia. We're going to look at how a massive rule change has totally rewritten the rules of the game for both the original drug innovators and the generic companies that follow. So it's been nearly 3 years since Saudi Arabia's Food and Drug Authority, that's the SFDA, essentially hit the reset button on how they handle pharmaceutical patents. Now that the dust has settled a bit, we can really start to see the impact of this new delinked system. The question is, what does this new landscape actually mean for the players on the ground? Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the new rules of engagement, then we'll jump into the specific strategies for innovators and for generics. And we'll wrap it all up with an actionable playbook you can actually use. First things first, we've got to understand the new playing field. You can't win the game if you don't know the rules, right? And in this case, the whole game board has been redesigned from the ground up. So, the official goals here are pretty clear. Make things more transparent, build trust, and make it easier for generics to get registered. All of these point to one massive philosophical shift, separating the drug approval process from patent enforcement. It's like they've created two completely separate highways. And this is really the single most important thing to get. The SFDA's role is now crystal clear. They are the gatekeepers for market entry. Their job is to make sure drugs are safe and effective, period. They are not the patent police. That job now belongs somewhere else entirely. This table just maps it all out perfectly. You've got the SFDA, which is now just a passive recipient of patent data. They just hold on to it. Then there's SAIP, the authority actually issuing the patents. Then you have the innovator, who has to be proactive about submitting their patents and then actively enforce them in court. And finally, the generic applicant, they navigate the process and crucially, they assume all the liability. So, let's jump into the innovator's playbook. If you're the one holding the patent, guess what? The burden of proof, the burden of action, it is now 100% on you. For innovators, this is basically your new checklist. And it's not just for new products. Look at step 3. You have to go back and retroactively submit patents for drugs that are already on the market. If you don't, in the eyes of the SFDA, that patent doesn't exist. And any delay, any mistake, well, the consequences are all yours. And this quote, pulled directly from the official document, just says it all. It could not be clearer. Submitting your patent to the SFDA is simply a procedural notification. It is not a request for them to protect it. Think of it this way. You're telling the fire department your address. You're not asking them to park a truck outside your house. So if you believe a generic company is infringing on your patent, what do? You have one path and one path only. You file a claim in the commercial court. The SFDA will sit on the sidelines and will only act if and when a final judicial order comes down from a judge. Okay, let's flip the coin. What does this whole thing look like from the other side? Let's walk through the standard play for a generic company trying to get their product on the market. So this is the main route. If a generic applies and the SFDA sees that a patent is on file for that product, they hit pause. They'll ask for what's called a Freedom to Operate, or FTO, letter. And once they ask for it, a clock starts ticking. The generic company has 60 working days to get that letter from a licensed expert and submit it. And this is the exact legal language that has to be in that letter. A SIOP licensed agent has to put their name on the line and certify that the generic product is not infringing. But, and this is a huge but, even with this expert certification, all the legal risk, every bit of it, still sits squarely on the shoulders of the generic company. But, there's another way in, a more strategic, more aggressive path that's all about timing a perfect day one market launch. This is what's known as a bowler-like provision, and it's basically a regulatory head start. Generics can submit their file for review up to 2 years before the innovator's patent expires. The SFDA does all its scientific and technical homework during that time. So the very second the patent expires, bam, the SFDA can issue the registration and the generic can be on the market that day. It's a race to the starting line. Now we're going to talk about what is arguably the most important part of this entire system. Liability. Who is actually on the hook when things go sideways? This is where you really need to read the fine print. And this slide just lays it out in stark black and white. The SFDA's position is essentially not our problem. They explicitly wash their hands of any responsibility. The generic company, on the other hand, has to sign a document explicitly accepting full responsibility for any infringement, any claims, and any compensation. The risk is transferred, completely and totally. And that document they sign? It's called an إقرار. You have to understand, in Arabic law, this is not just a form. An إقرار is a formal, serious, and legally binding instrument. When a generic company signs this, they're proactively accepting full legal and financial responsibility. This one piece of paper is the linchpin of the entire liability system. Okay, so let's tie this all together. What should you actually do with this information? Now that we've seen how this is played out, here are the key actionable takeaways for both sides. For innovators, the strategy is all about proactive defense. First, be absolutely diligent with your paperwork. Get all your patents on file, new and old. Second, have your legal strategy for the commercial court ready to go, because it's your only weapon. And third, be vigilant. Watch the market like a hawk. For generics, it's about smart strategy and calculated risk. First, your IP agent is your most important partner. Choose them very carefully. Second, plan your whole timeline around that 60-day deadline. Third, for your big products, seriously consider that 24-month bowler-like pathway. And fourth, and most importantly, understand the legal power of that إقرار before you sign. Remember, SFDA approval will not protect you in court. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. In this new de-linked system in Saudi Arabia, getting your drug through the regulatory process, that's just the ticket to enter. It's table stakes. The real contest, the one that truly determines who wins and who loses in the market, now seems to be fought not at the SFDA, but in the courtroom. Your legal strategy isn't just a part of the game anymore. It is the game.